Bet365 for the win. It's a beautiful home for the beautiful game, and we are starting the program right away today. Match day -2 in beautiful British Columbia. We'll have Christian Jack joining us from the Seawall, Gareth Wheeler and Jordan Wilson on the program today as well. KJ, you are fresh off of Canada training, match day -2, as I mentioned. A question I asked you yesterday, a question I'm going to ask you today, probably tomorrow as well, my friend. What's the latest on the captain, Alphonso Davies?
Well, it's been a spectacular Tuesday here. I was awake before 6 o'clock and the sun was already up, and it hasn't left us yet as of taping this show here on this match day -2 ahead of Canada's game against Qatar here in Vancouver on Thursday. Just to give you a little bit of a timeline, we're often invited to training at the University of British Columbia for Canada approximately about 10:30 local. We were pushed back today by 30 minutes. Canada actually had their picture day where they had the entire players and staff out there for their official World Cup team photo. When we're eventually allowed into training, as many people now know, we're given the first 15 minutes to access that kind of footage, take some photos and observe of what we want from that session. That was approximately around about 11:15 this morning, and during that time, Canada Soccer's media representative told us at that moment an update on some of their injured players, including Alfie Jones, who was given a little bit of a personal day. He was there in trainers, but not in a boot, not in his boots, obviously getting some, looks a little bit of a recovery day from him. But then came the bomb, or maybe not the bomb. Alphonso Davies no longer in return to play protocol, or is he? They could not get a confirmation on that. So what was not necessarily a story suddenly became a story, because Alphonso Davies has been in return to play protocol. That's the status that they give on these players every single time we go to training, every day at the beginning of this World Cup. But today they could no longer confirm or deny. So an unusual, ambiguous response from Canada Soccer. I then asked them directly in front of about 80 members of the media, can we now report that he is no longer in it? And they did not confirm or deny either. So Alphonso Davies is the story, whether he's going to play or not. And we talked to some of the players who were made available to us about Alphonso after training.
Yeah, Alphonso's so important. He's the best player in our region, and yeah, we're excited that he's here. We're excited that he's getting a lot better and progressing really well. So if you can add him onto the pitch, you know, that's an X factor that any team in the world's going to take.
I don't know if he can play. I mean, he hasn't been training with us, as you guys know. So, I mean, but what I can say he can bring to the team, he can bring his leadership, which is very important for us. Obviously, you guys know Fonzie better than me. He's probably the best dribbler in this competition. He can play as a left back, as an inverted winger, as a winger, up top. I mean, he can do everything. And when he plays, it opens up everything for us. So, I mean, hopefully he can get back as quick as possible. I don't know when that is, but we're going to try to make sure that he plays this tournament.
I'm not a medical expert, so I'll leave that to them, and I'll leave that to Jesse. But we all know what Fonzie brings in terms of his experience, the pace, just his ability to stretch the game, and obviously brings another level of star power as well to the team. And it's a chess piece that a lot of teams have to, you know, divert a lot of attention to dealing with him, because he can honestly dominate a game single-handedly down that one flank. So, look, if we can get him back, it'd be just a massive kind of boost for us. But at the same time is that we're still prioritizing his fitness and his health. I know what it's like coming back from a hamstring. It's one of those ones you can't take shortcuts. So I think that we're going to try and make the best medical decision, but I know at the same time he's desperate to play for us.
Canada Soccer under Jesse Marsh, 32 matches, 2,880 minutes. Alphonso Davies, 1,000 exactly, just under 35%. So whether he plays or not in the next game, one thing's for sure, Jordan and Gareth, Canada Soccer have got a lot of recency from the fact that they don't have to necessarily rely on Alphonso Davies. But whether they liked it or not, the players had to talk about him today. Their captain still TBD in terms of what's going forward and whether he's available. But if you read between the lines, probably unlikely, but maybe a substitute for Thursday against Qatar.
From RTP to TBD, Gareth Wheeler, would you risk it? I know you don't have access to the medical information, but just as we get closer to the game, I know you're having this thought swirl in your head.
Well, forget TBD. I was thinking WTF today when all this was transpiring, because if there's look, I get gamesmanship. I understand how it works. I understand why it happens. And oftentimes I advocate for it. But at a time like this, in a World Cup with your captain Alphonso Davies, the track record that he has gone through, the issues with his agent, the issues with Bayern Munich, if there was one player I would be deliberate in my messaging about, it would be Alphonso Davies. So I'm not quite sure what this is all about, whether it's to protect the player, whether it's to keep the opposition guessing, thinking, I guess. I'm just not really sure what you get out of this by not being deliberate in your messaging. So, look, the last thing that you want is all the players at camp today asking questions about Alphonso Davies when definitively a must-win game is ahead. So, in my personal opinion, I think this situation could be dealt with much better. And I think that we will eventually learn whether this tactic pays off or not. If Alphonso Davies plays and is healthy and everything moves along merrily, then so be it. I just think that this is an unnecessary distraction. And it's the last thing that Davies or anyone needs right now is any kind of deception. Look, the messaging might be clear behind the scenes, Adam, but public perception matters here when it's a player of the magnitude of Alphonso Davies with what he's already experienced.
One Soccer on location, Christian Jack in Vancouver, powered by General Mills. KJ, aside from Coy, how would you describe the mentality of the Canadian players? We know, especially those who've been able to be in these match day -1 and 2 environments, that although it's not the day before the game, match day -2, very important for the preparation in these tournaments.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, we talked a lot on this World Cup about last Friday's game being a game that they could win, and now it feels like this is a game that they have to win, right? We all know the scenarios within the group stages. And I think what comes down to this is what I wanted to talk to them particularly about today was their mentality. You know, they've done a lot of good things under Jesse Marsch, and they've become a very difficult team to beat. The next step now is becoming that team that knows how to win. And I think they know how to win certain games, but that doesn't mean that you truly know how to win, that mentality of true killers. And I thought Alistair Johnson was the right person to ask that. He's been at Celtic now and consistently winning trophies. He won again the double this year in Scotland, and that team is the example for me of what it truly takes to feel like what it means to win. Is what Alistair told me about trying to take that next step and getting Canada towards that mentality.
Yeah, it's a tough one to put into words. I'd say it really is something that's built on having experience doing it. It's not something that you can, you know, kind of fake that confidence, and it's something that not only does it just boost your team, but it affects the other team as well. They can sense it. There's a level of confidence and almost a sense of inevitability that, you know, there is going to be a goal that's going to happen in the last minute, and you can almost see it in the other team's eyes as well, that they almost feel it's coming as well. So look, I thought that we actually, in that Bosnia match, we were in the ascendancy and we had chances. But yeah, you're probably right. If we just had that little bit more of that kind of killer instinct, maybe we find a way to get a winner there, and we're sitting on 3 points going to the second group stage game. But look, we're still building towards that. You know, that's something that every single team in the world wants to be. You know, have that winning mentality, and we've still got a long way to go with that in terms of, you know, we look at this group, we're such a talented group, but we still haven't won any trophies or anything. So we're still building towards that. And look, these tournaments are the best time to go out and show that. And I think we showed that in Copa America, that when we're at it and, you know, we're playing at our best, and, you know, we're such a deep team now, the guys coming off the bench as well, that we can put fear into pretty much any team in the world. So we need to get back to that. Ideally, you know, we'll show that again on this week coming up here against Qatar.
As usual, a very thoughtful answer and a thorough answer from Alistair. Just fascinating for me, Jordan, that you could see it from a player point of view, that he actually admits what the next steps are. And also, as a player, I'd love to hear your thought of it. He could sense it playing for Celtic when the other team's playing against him, that he already knows when they're even not winning, that they're in their heads. And I think that's something for Canada to look at, whether they can get that lead early and have that psychological advantage to becoming a winner when it's needed here on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm so curious to what you feel about this, KJ, and what you're noticing being there live in the flesh. Is like, what comes to mind to me, or for me, is you think about Nations League finals, which you were at, right, against the U.S., don't show up or don't play their best, don't get the win that they kind of need. Then we go Nations League again, a must-win game when you're playing Mexico, and Mexico were far better on the day. Basically, what I'm trying to say to you, KJ, Thursday feels like a cup final to me. It feels like a day just for the nation, but to put this team in the trajectory and in the place that they need to be to say, hey, we are those guys now. And maybe you're seeing a little bit of pressure. You're seeing like the vibe in camp, but you talk about mentality. I just want to know, do we feel good about this? Do they feel good about going against Qatar and knowing what's on the line for the match? Because we can get into scoring. We can get into all these intricacies about the game. But what is the vibe right now, and how do you feel looking at this? Because for me, it feels like a crossroads, a must-win, have to get the vibes right. And I just want to know, do you feel like this team is ready for it to take this next level?
Yeah, I do feel like that. But again, it's one of those you got to show us moments. No, as you mentioned, some of the examples in the past. Those moments in the past, they have come across certainly regional, some of the Goliaths in that region. No disrespect to their opponent on Thursday, and if people think it is, I apologize, but this is a game and a team that they should be beating, and they should be winning, absolutely, and I think that internally they believe that as well. You know, it was 8 years ago this week that Canada were given this World Cup, and at that moment, Canada were ranked 80th in the world. At that moment, people thought, okay, they are another Qatar. They are another South Africa. They're getting a place in a World Cup simply by the fact that you get the right to host it. And this team has spent the last 8 years demanding more and expecting more and suddenly building their reputation up to get a game like this, to now have a game against Qatar because of the advantage that they have by having the fact that they're a host nation. So, yes, I think internally they absolutely believe they can go out and win, and they should.
Well, KJ, that's the what and the why of this match against Qatar. But what about the how? How do they approach it? How do they accomplish these goals?
Well, there's a couple of things for me from that. We've talked a lot about the World Cup so far and some of the teams who were surprising, and a lot of the clean sheets that have come out of that where teams have been very difficult to break down. And belief is one that you don't want to be giving their opponents. You know, there's a feeling that Qatar shocked Switzerland and maybe you'd be a bit more wary of them. I also subscribe to the feeling that maybe they've had their World Cup moment and maybe they don't need it anymore and they can't necessarily get that again. So when I spoke to the players today, here's some of the players that we spoke to on that kind of approach that they need to take going into this crucial second game of the group stage.
I think it's the fact that everybody knows that, you know, this is a matter of life or death for us. Obviously, when we are competing, we're just not here to spend our times. We want to win. We want to make history like we did against Bosnia, which was very important to make that first point. And this second game is as much as important because it's the first opportunity we have to go after the win and make history again. Obviously, that doesn't consume us. We have to do what we do best, which is be ourselves. But at the same time, we know that every game in this World Cup is very hard. So we're going to be warriors Thursday.
Yeah, I think it's just being very good in both boxes, which that's what we plan to be on Thursday. You know, making sure that in the defensive third we're taking care of things. Anything we've seen from last game that we need to improve, we will improve, and then just moving forward into the other box where last game I think we created a number of chances, really good chances that we should have scored. That when we get this game, we're going to put them away.
It's about us ideally dictating the game with the ball, but also being aware of that this team is fine to hit you on a counterattack and have the individual talent to be able to put moments together as we saw against Switzerland. You know, even that last 10 minutes of the game, Switzerland were up 1-0, but you know, Qatar were getting some counterattacks. They were definitely growing into the game, and they never felt out of it. And that's something that, you know, you have to be impressed with. It's a really good Swiss team. But Qatar never, you know, felt like they were defeated. And obviously ended up getting that equalizer at the very end with a center back going all the way up. So again, there's just little things that we have to take in consideration that, you know, potentially if you're up late, you know, might have center backs coming in and you know, making the box late in the game. So that's things that we're looking at. But it's ideally going to be a game where we're going to be able to dictate the tempo of the game, play on our terms. And yeah, I think it's one of those games that you need to find a way to score early, ideally, to really open them up, because otherwise they've shown that if they're in a game and it's tight, they're really comfortable defending deep and being able to hit you on the counterattack.
Some really interesting tidbits there, as Alistair Johnson alluded to. Score early, Stefano Stacchio. We need to be warriors. Remember this, back to my advantage point. Over the years, in the 96 years of the competition, 65%, that's the win percentage of host nations in the group stages. And that's a big number on the side of Canada again. Only two teams have never won one of their first two group games. South Africa in 2010, Qatar in 2022. The only two teams never to reach the second round of the World Cup. Canada don't want to be on that list, and if they win on Thursday, they won't be.
Okay, KJ, I'm certainly not a mathematician, but even I can do, they lost the first, they have to win each of their last two games to maintain that historical average and hit 66%. We thank you for joining us from Vancouver, KJ, powered by General Mills, One Soccer on location. We'll chat with you soon, my friend. And here is the Group B table as one final reminder why this game against Qatar is so important.
Brought to you by the number one. One.
That's exactly right, Wheels. It looks like a computer code binary 101001, etc., etc.
Morse code.
It's all to play for, and we'll certainly get a clearer picture after the match on Thursday. Time for a break. On the other side, we will look back to some of the matches that are already in the books. The Stars in action on Tuesday. Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland, Lionel Messi still to come tonight. And how about those Kiwis? You know, I'll get them in at every opportunity right here on Bet365 for the win.
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by Bet365.
We were there for your first game together. The day you taught him the rules and the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now,
who won the most Canadian Classics?
it's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing together.
In Canada, our future stars don't simply show up on the world stage. They are built from the ground up, right here in the heart of our communities.
Oh, lovely through ball there, Isaiah Johnson! Goal for Halifax!
From a childhood dream to the national team.
Jacob Sheffield, yes! He's done it! Canada on top of the footballing world!
We are Canada, driven by Volkswagen.
Canada are really pressing here. Oh, what a move! That is a quality ball! Now the run into the box!
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by Bet365.
Well, Spain and Cabo Verde certainly got all the headlines on Monday, but for my money, the best match of the day, New Zealand and the Islamic Republic of Iran. The player of the match, Elijah Just. 2 goals for the Kiwis as they would go ahead twice, only for the Iranians to equalize each time. A thrilling end-to-end match where right until the full-time whistles, you really weren't sure if we would have a winner. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this also meant that Jenkins' parlay from Sunday did in fact hit 2 for 2 to start the tournament as the Kiwis and the Iranians followed through with the theme of draws as we saw them all day long. Could not get much easier than this from Los Angeles Stadium. Even the possession numbers were just about split right down the middle, fitting for Group G that looks identical to Canada's Group B, where all 4 nations have a draw to their name and a 0-goal differential. So match day 1, just about a wash for Group G as well, and we are very curious to see how things transpire for the rest of the group. Tunisia, they have a new head coach, but he is a familiar face. That's right, Hervé Renard is back in to oversee the remainder of the World Cup. after Sabri Lamouchi was sacked following the colossal defeats to the Swedes. Now, the 57-year-old, he certainly is no stranger to the World Cup, having participated and coached in each of the last two with Morocco and Saudi Arabia. He also led the French national team against the Women's World Cup, where they went all the way through to Australia. But with that, let's get into France and Senegal from today. Gareth Wheeler, 3-1 the final, and my goodness, it took a little bit of time, but once Kylian Mbappe and co got going, they really looked like a juggernaut.
Best game of the tournament for me, just in terms of overall quality. Two really good teams, and the better side came out on top. France really flipped the switch in the second half. It was like they were feeling each other out in the first half. Senegal obviously possess a real threat, but so much quality in this French side. Kylian Mbappe with 2 goals. He surpassed Olivier Giroud as the all-time leading goal scorer for the French national team. I said it before this tournament. By the time that the World Cup here in 2026 is done, Kylian Mbappe will be the greatest goal scorer at World Cups of all time. An emphatic performance by France, laying down a marker. I actually really love the fact that they only made 2 changes in the game as well. So shout out to Didier Deschamps. You don't have to use 5 substitutes just because you have them. This French team is poised to go on a run. Best quality side in terms of talent in this tournament. Look out, the French are coming.
Jordan Wilson.
Look, this guy's different. Look, 14 games and 14 goals. That's what we haven't even put up there. Wheels. Jenko. Like, this guy's a machine. Let's even go a bit further. The last 2 World Cup games for Kylian Mbappe, he has 5 goals. Like, what are you eating, my guy? Like, what are you on to just be producing those type of moments? And we have to say as well, watching this game, I agree with you, Wheels. Very exciting, specifically from the Senegal's perspective, but looked like the worst player on the pitch in the first half. Then he just has something instinctive, Kylian Mbappe, and saying, you know what? Olise, play that ball. I'm going to make that run and finish something that looked easy, but it was a spectacular finish. And then his second goal is also out of this world. So this guy just knows how to produce a big moment. But we've talked about it on air, off air, Wheels, Jenko. This France side looks legit. Olise as well. Him in like a free role, playing the 10. I know we have Bayern Munich, One Soccer has it, and we're there every weekend just looking at this team closely. But that's him as a right winger. Him floating around, finding space, and players feeding him, scary hours. He looked dangerous. But I will say something about Senegal. I love the way they looked. I love the way they started this match, but it proves true, and we've been talking about it a lot on the show for the win. If you don't go and finish your dinner, it will always come back to bite you in the tush. And that's what happened. You're looking at the Sarr chance. Senegal was on it. They were taking it to France.
Sarr chance. Oh my.
The Sarr chance.
With your left
no one
foot.
said it. Yes. I've been looking at all the commentary. Wrong foot. Left foot.
Yeah,
swing your left foot in there and you get a chance on frame. You open with your right. It goes over the bar. Like, it was a poor execution. But Senegal, I'm going to be okay with that side. They're going to grow into the tournament. But again, it's one of those things that I hope Canada is paying attention to. You got to take care of those chances. You got to make sure that you convert, because it always comes back to hurt you. And we're seeing that this World Cup be truer than ever.
Senegal will beat Norway, by the way. I know Norway beat Iraq. I can't see Iraq picking up a point in this group, to be fair. I think Senegal, I still rate them. Still scored a goal. They could have had 2 or 3, in fairness. This is the kryptonite for France, is that they still have question marks defensively. They've now conceded goals, I believe, in 6 straight games. So it's an area to follow. Saliba's not 100% fit. Upamecano's quality on the ball, but sometimes gets dragged out of position far too often. And when you're playing your fullbacks high, that can come back to burn them. So I think against a better structured team, France may have a little bit more trouble. Senegal will be okay. They're going to be a pain against basically anyone that they play against. They tested France here today. I don't think the score line really represents how good Senegal were today in stretches of the game. Just France too strong for me.
Well, if Senegal aren't able to climb up to the 2nd position in the table, they will certainly have a great case to be one of the best 3rd-place teams and advance to the next round.
They're going to beat Norway.
That's right, Gareth. Despite the scoreline, France 3, Senegal 1. It's the Norwegians who lead Group I as they defeated Iraq by 4-1. Holland with a first half brace, as he is certainly the man to lead Norway to what they hope is the promised lands. Time for a break, though. When we return to Bet365 for the win, we'll be joined by an international manager with stops in Canada, Grenada, and Bermuda. He is an important piece to what Canada has built. Michael Finley is next when we return.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
In Canada, our future stars don't simply show up on the world stage. They are built from the ground up, right here in the heart of our communities.
Oh, lovely through ball there, Isaiah Johnson! Goal for Halifax!
From a childhood dream to the national team.
Jacob Shuffle, good! Yes! He's done it! Canada, on top of the footballing world!
We are Canada, driven by Volkswagen.
And for Canada, BMO.
After 20 years of supporting the game, we're actually going to play in one. Let's go! So what do you need? Precision striker, rock solid left back?
We need a coin.
For the coin toss? Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I get it. Can I at least flip it? Heads or tails? I'll do that. We're on TV right now. Yeah.
Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
And a reminder of Canada's schedule at this 2026 World Cup. Post 1-1 draw with Bosnia and Herzegovina. It is match day -2 today, which means we will see Canada and Qatar on Thursday with a 3 p.m. local time kickoff in Vancouver, followed by the preceding Wednesday, where they will take on the toughest team in the group with so much to be decided, the Swiss, and that will be a noon Pacific kickoff on TSN. Joining the program now is a former Canadian national team assistant and interim head coach. And Michael, the title is long, so please bear with me as I go through the notes because I don't want to miss a step on your incredible journey. We have experience as well, of course, with Grenada and most recently with Bermuda, where you saw the nation through to the final qualifying round in CONCACAF. Needless to say, you know plenty about CONCACAF football. You know plenty about coaching as a former member as well as a technical consultant with the FIFA Talent Development Scheme program. Alas, with all that said, we have established the bona fides. Let's talk about the football, Michael. You were sharing with us just before we began the show today that you had the chance to walk through West Van with a cold beverage in your hand instead of a tactics board and watch Canada play at a home World Cup. What has this entire experience been like for you so far?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Really good to see you. I feel like I've now joined football royalty being on this show. So please, I've marked my...
Welcome back anytime, Michael.
Exactly.
Anytime.
Thank you. I'm done. Goodbye. See you next week. No, you know, I can imagine what you guys are thinking because you're part of this whole process of trying to develop and promote Canadian football for many years. I mean, it's really hard to put into words for me. My first recollection of a World Cup was when my dad took me to Pacific Coliseum in 1978 to watch Scotland play in Argentina on closed circuit television. So you can imagine how far we've come. But, you know, until I left Canada Soccer, you know, I'd spent, 17, 18 years promoting, developing speaking for, being part of, Canadian football, and to see it now on our home turf, and seeing, not just footballers and not just football enthusiasts, but you're starting to see that general public show an interest in the game. It is a fabulous day. And I can tell you, I look forward to hopefully this part of the game becoming a much more integral part of our community and the fabric of sport in Canada. But yeah, it's moving, quite frankly. It's been very moving.
Well, Michael, just because you are joining the evil empire that is the media doesn't mean we're not going to ask you to put on your coaching hat as we discuss a couple of hot button topics around the Canadian men's national team right now. Of course, it's who's going to start up front against Qatar after Jonathan David's substitution, Kyle Laren's super sub heroics, and how much Canada can rely on certain players that have been coming into this tournament with injury. So let's start with the first question there then, with the striker position. It's the one that many supporters are bantering about. How do you see this group best deployed?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've had experience in the past, certainly with Kyle in the national teams program. Kyle did what he does the other day. He scores. And I know that sounds quite simplistic, but Kyle is one of those players that just has a knack of finding the right spot at the right time. I think him not starting, I can understand the staff and Jesse's final decision on maybe wanting to attack him behind a little bit more directly, a little bit more pace than, say, Kyle will give you. But at the end of the day, he deployed him at a time where it gave them great benefit and ultimately saved them a point. But now I think you have to play him. And so first and foremost, I think Kyle plays. I think he has to play in a front two, and I think Jonathan will play again, and I think Jonathan should play again. I mean, let's be honest. People may say he didn't have his greatest game, but then again, he's been a staple of the lineup. He's delivered in previous occasions, his experience. But I do say that I see them in a two. I don't see Jonathan in the 10 spot or dropping in. Jonathan's best parts are in front of him, and Kyle's best parts are things that he sees within the frame of the goal. So, if I'm picking the team tomorrow, I'm picking Kyle and Jonathan in the front two.
Michael, I want to bring Gareth and Jordan in here in a moment, but you just spoke to us about the conclusion. What happens when you as a coach have your answer? But I'm fascinated by the dynamics before the decision, because you're inside the changing room. You're dealing with these guys every single day from sun up through sundown and curfew, and you're having these conversations. Kyle, you're not going to start today. Hey, Tanny, it's your moment. I'm curious sort of the philosophy and the behind the curtain aspect of managing these players and managing these decisions.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you're paid to do. They're difficult decisions, but they're decisions that you, at the end of the day, you need to embrace. And hopefully you make the right ones, and that's the beauty of being the head coach. It really depends on, I believe, the head coach's management and leadership style, because these type of decisions can be very exclusive or they can be very inclusive. And if you are looking for the best answers, my philosophy has always been in the past is to gather as much information and be able to look at every scenario independently, and then gather that information and make the best decision at that time. In the end, let's be honest, the head coach is the one that's going to get fired, so he's probably going to have the final say. But in terms of that, I expect that the decisions that were made with regards to that first match were very similar to that process. I'm not in the room with Jesse and his staff, but I do know a couple of the members of staff, and my guess it would be very inclusive and trying to walk through each scenario and what they thought was going to give them the best opportunity to win at that time. And you got to give them credit. They made the decision to make a change, and it benefited them in the end of the day. And this is going to play into what they're doing probably right now, and that is putting down each individual scenario on paper and looking at each player who maybe can contribute. And it just might not be the front two either, as you probably want to discuss. It could be other selections at this moment in time, given the realities of injuries, performance, how they want to apply themselves come Thursday.
I think his bolder decision, Michael, was taking off Jonathan David with half an hour to go.
Yeah.
Like, it clearly wasn't his best day. Laren Oluwaseyi, as long as you're direct and make those decisions, it's going to affect the players. You could see Kyle Laherty knows the outside noise, the plugging of the ears. We see all of that, but it's how that player responds. And that's a big part of the coaching staff, and their job is to make sure that mentality is right. And I just wonder with Jonathan David right now, my biggest question is, how is he going to react? How is he going to respond? It's one thing Canadians questioning the performance. It's another thing being pulled off earlier than he ever has by his manager in a game where you need to go and score a goal. That, for me, Michael, is going to be telling to see what kind of response we see from Jonathan David when they play Qatar later on this week. Do you have any questions about that? Look, I have all the faith in the world in Jonathan David. I put him right back in the starting 11. He's my main man up top. Track record is everything when it comes to this player, but still, whether it's body language, his touch on the ball, his demeanor, I think it's going to be really telling what kind of headspace he might be in for the next game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything, Gareth, which you said there. I think the realities are that I will say that I think that, the first game at home, big crowd, big pressure, which, by the way, that's okay. It's time that Canada built upon that type of pressure to be able to carry that on your shoulders. Okay. Enough of the, we're the smaller nation, rah, 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 here we go. I mean, that those days are gone. So you've got to take some responsibility. And I think Jonathan has it in him to take that responsibility. He's shown it at Juve when he was under stress and under pressure there. And if there's a difficult place to play in the world club football, it would be Serie A and Juventus and what they expect. So he rode that very well. So he probably will take some learnings from that. But I also think that when you're dealing with international football, one of the things that is very important when you sit down with your group is to explain to them that not everybody is going to play a 100% role. They're always going to play maybe a percentage role, whether that be from the back all the way up to the front. Not everybody is going to be the starting 11. Not everybody is going to score the goals. Not everybody is going to provide that service. So they have to embrace the idea that you need to support each person in each situation. And when you're dealing with an event such as the World Cup, I think that is a really, really important piece of what's going on in behind the scenes, is how are these players connecting and how these players are respecting each other's contribution at any one given time. Because at the end of the day, the reality is, and you've seen it in the World Cup already, almost every team has used almost every sub in every game. So the whole substitution and scenario has changed the dynamic of tactics. So everybody knows at any given time, they're going to step onto the pitch. And Kyle's a prime example of that the other night.
Gabe's gone soft. 5 subs. Just say it. Just say it.
Michael, we know you've coached a lot of these current crop of Canadian stars, Kyle and Jonathan, Max, Alfonso, Richie Larea, et cetera, through the youth and senior teams. But during these World Cups, I have to say one of the some of the moments that I cherish the most are seeing the players from bygone eras of this team and what it means to them. I know the other day, I think it was Dale Mitchell and Alan Arrington, in a watch party reacting to the goals. And you think of those players and coaches from the past versions of this team, the foundation layers. I'm curious, from that crop of maybe not this current group of players, but people you've coached and have been foundational to Canadian soccer, who would you like to transport to 2026 and add maybe as a starter or a sub for Qatar or the Swiss?
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point, and I think it's important, and it sounds like a little self-promotion because I was involved in that process. But I think Canadian football fans have to know, because the game has grown immensely, the media's attached itself to the World Cup, and the stories are very current. But a lot of and Jordan will know this too, there are so many people who have traveled this road to get here. And there were so many players that were involved, and staff who were involved in Canadian football. We used to say Canadians used to have the wrong passport if you wanted to be a professional footballer, because every time we would call in players, we'd have to not just convince them because the fact is they couldn't lose their job if they came to the national team because they were not regulars, but you had to convince the teams they were at would even take our calls. So those types of things are people like the Nick Ledgerwoods of the world and the David Edgars of the world and those types of players that have been there, Kenny Stanatopoulos, players like that. I think that you forget about their sacrifices they made to be there all the time. But if you look at the era that just passed, I mean, I would love to see Atiba in this team. I'd love to see a Scott Arfield in this team. You know, I would love to see, given our injury situation, a Stephen Vittoria in this team. You know, those types of players I think could bring it. You know, if all things were equal. But certainly the you know, everybody you see on these highlight reels, following the team, supporting the team, cheering for the team, it really does say a lot about the service that people in Canadian football have done to get us here.
Michael, you're painting such a beautiful picture of what it means to be Canadian and to follow this game and just what it is. You're so right. People have sacrificed. But let's just talk about Thursday, because I've already said it's not really a secret, but for me, it's a final against Qatar. You win, vibes are there. You also feel good about where you are in the group. But put your manager cap on a little bit. Like, what do you think are things that Canada needs to focus on? But also, what are their last words that you would say to this group before they go and play Qatar?
Well, first and foremost, I think we, as a manager, you would have been doing your prep prior to, so you would have had in place the plan for Bosnia and Herzegovina. You would have had your plan for Qatar. You would have had your plan for Switzerland, and then in between that, you'd have your transitional pieces if things didn't go well or things went well. I think you're probably in the middle here at this moment in time. I think from a Canadian perspective, first and foremost, I think they need to stick to the plan in terms of being the protagonist. The game model's out there. Everybody knows how Canada plays. There's no secrets in football anymore. They understand that process. It'll be more about selections. And I think the thing that will be focused upon, and what I would be focusing upon in the dressing room, is all about execution. You know, appropriate skill at the appropriate time in the appropriate place. That is what's going to give you the success of it. It's not going to be us rally calling and, as I say, rah, 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 and get behind Canada. Everybody's behind Canada. I can see it. The stadium will be full. This is now about the strategic decisions that have to be made in terms of selection and that commitment in terms of execution, because everything on paper right now, from my perspective, is we should see success against Qatar. And we need to ask our players to also create success for Canada in this game. And I think at that point in time, I think your comment about Cup final, absolutely. The World Cup, the hardest thing to do in international football is to put two international results together back to back. It comes from the regeneration, the injury, the loss of performance, or, for example, as we said, we would have been rolling on 3 points. Now we're in it on 1 point. And to your point, Jordan, this is a cup final to put us in a driver's seat position going to Switzerland next week.
Here.
Michael, I'm a man that likes to cross my T's and dot my I's. So my last question is a quick one. It's a topic of conversation on the show today. Did you get a phone call from the Tunisian FA with your CV, or did they just go straight to Hervé Renard?
You know what? I have a, you know, my Arabic is iffy. You know, I spent some time in the Middle East, but it's just a bit iffy. Yeah. No, I wish I had got that call from Tunisia. I would have loved that opportunity. But
just got to fill out a shirt like Herb Bernard. Just like,
I tell you what, you want a story? Do you want a story? This is a true story. So I took over Canada after Benito Floro had left, and our first camp was in Morocco, and we played Mauritius and Morocco, and Rene was the coach of Morocco at that moment in time. So we get to the hotel, everybody is unloaded, and everybody's got some time to get some sleep after the flight. Staff usually gets ready with regards to what's next. I took the opportunity to go down and go to the gym. As you can probably see, I'm really ripped, but buff. Thank you, George. So I go down there, and I'm not kidding you. Rene is in the gym. I looked in the gym, and he had this sort of singlet shirt on. I turned around and I went back to my room. I just couldn't bring myself to go in the room, and I look at, and then he shows up on game day, and he's wearing this white shirt. He can hardly get in it, and I'm looking at it, and I walked over. He says, we said our niceties in the technical area. I said, I saw you in the gym yesterday. I decided not to work out. Anyway, we saw each other in Qatar at the semifinal, and he comes walking over, and he goes, "Hey, you're working out again, are you?" And so it was quite funny. But that's exactly Super nice. Super
Michael,
nice.
an absolute delight to have you on the program, sharing some stories and memories, and our sincere thanks for your contributions to building up this Canadian men's national team to where it is today. Thanks for being here with us.
No, thanks very much, Shannon. I have to say, I've worked around the CPL and around Canadian soccer, and I will say this, it is so essential for us to remember that this is probably the most important project in the world for Canadian football, and that's the Canadian Premier League, and the whole infrastructure around that. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on this show, because the circus will leave town, and we need to build a stronger foundation to this, and we do it through this type of activity. And I look forward to the next time I'm on the show if you'll have me. So have a great day and enjoy the football.
Love it. Amen.
Well, don't block the Tunisians, and don't block our producer's phone number. We'll be calling you, Michael. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Take care, Michael.
Take care, boys.
A wonderful chat with a wonderful figure of Canadian soccer. Let's talk about the Canadian Young Reds as they will get set to play in the CONCACAF Under-20 Championship. Their 3 Group C matches will be played in Puebla. The 4 semifinalists go to the U20 World Cup. The finalists go to the 2028 Summer Olympics. And the Pan Am Games qualification also on offer, a big tournament for them there. After the break, we will, of course, have Gareth Wheeler's parlay of the day. But before that, Oliver Platt from Toronto Stadium as we preview a huge Ghana-Panama match that's coming up at the FIFA World Cup.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
Canada are really pressing here. Oh, what a move. That is a quality ball. Now the run into the box.
Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
Hey Vinny, is that your lucky song? That's too bad, because it's Tajon's too. And don't trust those lucky boots. They're not gonna score on their own. In soccer, the best don't run on rocket fuel. They run every single day. So believe in your sweat, and Gatorade will fuel it with a formula that rehydrates, replenishes, and refuels. Because when it matters most, trust what's inside. Is it in you?
We were there for your first game together. The day you taught him the rules. And the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now?
Who won the most Canadian classics?
It's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing. Together.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
Wednesday at the FIFA World Cup, matches in Houston, Dallas, Mexico City, and of course, Toronto. Portugal will begin the day playing the Democratic Republic of the Congo. England and Croatia square off in Dallas. Canada's World Cup tune-up partners, Uzbekistan, will play Colombia, and of course, Ghana and Panama on Canadian soil. And for more on that match, let's go now to Toronto Stadium, powered by General Mills, and welcome in Oliver Platt.
The World Cup continues in Toronto tomorrow evening when Ghana faces Panama here at Toronto Stadium in what feels like a must-win match for both sides. They have games against Croatia and England's coming up in their group and will need 3 points here if they wish to have a chance of progressing to the knockout stage. Now, Ghana are considered favourites, but this has been a turbulent period for the country as a whole. Just last month, they exited a $3 billion IMF bailout program, and that has been reflected in the fortunes of the team on the pitch as well. We all remember 2010 when Luis Suarez's infamous handball denied Ghana a place in the World Cup semi-finals. They would have been the first African team to reach that stage at the time, but it has been much tougher sledding since then. Ghana has only one World Cup win since that match. They failed to qualify in 2018, and even more damningly, they failed to qualify for the most recent Africa Cup of Nations, having exited in the group stage in the 2 tournaments prior to that. They feel like they're in a state of turmoil entering this tournament as well. Otto Addo, the previous coach, was fired after poor results and performances in the March friendlies. And Carlos Queiroz, now 73 years old, has been turned to for some stability. But Queiroz, at today's pre-match press conferences, did not know whether he would be able to call upon his star midfielder, Thomas Partey, formerly of Arsenal. Partey faces 7 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault in the UK in a trial that will go ahead next year, and was denied entry to Canada at the border. That decision was appealed. The appeal was held in a federal court in Ottawa this morning, and later, after Queiroz had given his press conference here, the case was dismissed. Partey will not be able to come into Canada and will not be able to play in this game. Now, Panama, in contrast, are a picture of confidence and serenity. They entered the FIFA top 30 for the first time last year after making the CONCACAF Nations League finals, although they do have a potential key absence themselves in Adalberto Carrasquilla, who is expected only to be fit enough for a place on the bench. Don't overlook Panama, though, despite being underdogs in this game, in the penultimate match of the first round of fixtures here at the World Cup.
Thank you, Ollie. Our picture of confidence and serenity here at One Soccer. TELUS is proud to partner with soccer organizations across Canada, helping to raise the game from grassroots to elite levels. Gareth Wheeler, your TELUS player to watch will be Luka Vuskovic.
Luka Vuskovic is a legitimate stud. At 19 years of age, he plays like someone that's probably about 10 years older. 6 goals in 28 Bundesliga games last season. That was the most scored by a defender. He was on loan for Spurs. It's very Spursy to think that they might sell the player to Brighton. I don't know why they didn't recall him partway through the year, because he was unbelievable with Hamburg. 5th most duels won, 2nd most aerial duels, 6th in interceptions, and he's already scored once in 5, scoring against Colombia for Croatia as well. In fact, former Croatian defender Dario Srna has called Vuskovic the future of football. And I believe it, and guess what, Adam Jenkins? The future is now.
Gareth Wheeler, tomorrow's parlay of the day sees you looking at the Croatians and Vuskovic.
Well, I got off to a really good start on day one. I think this should be your segment from now on, because you were on flames, my man. Let's look ahead to Wednesday. Portugal win 0 against DR Congo. This is as tough as an opening match as it can get. This Portuguese side, they're playing for their fallen teammate in Diego Jota, but they're strong throughout their squad as well. They're one of the legitimate contenders here, and I think Portugal win 0 is the best way to attack this. Croatia +1 on the handicap as they take on England. I've seen England at plenty World Cups. Pragmatic, slow, disappointing. Yeah, those are all words that I describe them by. Croatia, not so much. Second, runners up in 2018. In last year's tournament, or the last tournament, Adam, in 2022, 3rd place, beating Canada, Belgium, Morocco, Japan, Brazil, Argentina, and then beating Morocco in the end. That was their path. That's as difficult as it gets. They're tried, tested, and true come World Cup, and I like that as a play, a full goal in the handicap. And Croatia to win 0. We saw Uzbekistan play Canada. It didn't look like they'd be able to score if they played for a week straight. Colombia is a very good side. I think that Uzbekistan are in tough. Put those 3 together, +683 is a juicy number.
Wonderful. 3-leg parlay for Gareth Wheeler.
Wonderful.
Let's get to some straight shots. Jordan Wilson with some individual match money lines. England -138, Croatia +375.
You know what it is. It's going to be a draw first match. Obviously, these two teams, I think they're going to go far in this tournament, England and Croatia. But come on, seeing as how the tournament has gone so far, seeing as for me, obviously the 2 best teams I'd say in that group, it looks like a 1-1 draw. Feels good. I will say, though, Wheels, I don't know if you agree with me when it comes to England. I totally agree about your player to watch for Croatia. But when you're looking at Morgan Rogers, I think he might start tomorrow. I think he should.
Over Jude?
A player
Over
that will,
Jude?
listen though, a player that will heat up this tournament. Jude will have his moments. I think first match going against Croatia really throw some at them, give them that punch. Jude's gonna start a lot of the games. Morgan Rogers, there's a case to be made that he deserves to start and go and cook. That 23-year-old that's killed it at Aston Villa, go on and show what you can do. Because he, for me, for England, is going to be that player to watch. He, for me, is going to be someone that could turn things on their head for England. So, yeah, of course, you're going to talk about Jude Bellingham, my boy Saka. But a player like Morgan Rogers, I think this is coming out party. I think he's going to show the world and the England fans what he has to offer. It's dangerous.
Yeah, and with your boy Declan Rice and Elliot Anderson in behind, it's the perfect context. And it seems like Tuchel, that's his biggest decision maybe in his starting 11, what he does at that position.
I think how he manages it too, right? Just saying, Jude, like, hey, this is a long tournament, right? If you're going to go to the final stages, 7 games you're going to have to play, there's going to be a lot of Bellingham moments. But I think right out of the gates, playing a Rogers 23-year-old, turning 24 by the end of the tournament, like it seems like his role to just be that secondary striker and to supply Kane some service. But that 1-2 punch could be deadly for England.
Just want to say quickly, Adam, Croatia's playing in Toronto, but the second place team in this group will play a round of 32 game in Toronto. So if you'd like to see England roll into town, then you want to put your support behind Croatia on Wednesday.
Gareth Wheeler, the next one for you, Portugal and Congo DR. As we look at the lines, who are you favoring, or are you siding with Jordan Wilson's penchants for a draw?
No, it's Portugal, and I kind of explained why. At the value that it's at, you got to play Portugal in the handicap. But my favorite way is the draw no bet. They have one of their maybe the best left back in this tournament in Mendes. They have the best midfield in this tournament with Neves, Vitinha, who's an absolute stud, and Bruno Fernandes coming off a season where he was the best player in the Premier League as well. They have depth. They're solid all across the park. By the way, the runners up in this group as well will play that round of 32 match against the second place of the English group as well. So these games are really consequential for what that knockout round matchup may look like in Toronto. The other match in that group is Colombia-Uzbekistan. So Portugal are going to be a significant favorite ahead of this one. I'm really curious to see how they fare and whether they've learned some of the mistakes from the previous World Cup. I mean, they were extraordinarily disappointing going out against Morocco. It's Cristiano Ronaldo's last tournament. They've had success in the Euros, but not in the World Cup. So a lot of pressures on this Portuguese side.
Their midfield. Two of those players I had to put in my best 11 and Vitinha. And you're looking at Bruno Fernandes as well that had an electric year. I know United didn't have the best year, but look, 21 assists. Like, this guy is a difference maker.
Third place. No. That was a good year for United. Come on.
We're doing a bronze year. They had a bronze. You see me gloating to Arsenal. We'll get into that another day. Don't worry. Anyways, I say all that to say Portugal. I see them going deep in this tournament, but Wheels is right. Like, tomorrow's the day that they're actually going to get the 3 points, and they're going to be cooking this tournament. I don't see them slowing down.
Had Congo DR called up Dimitri Berteau of Forge, maybe I sprinkle a loony on that plus 1,000. Ghana and Panama plus 125 for the African side, plus 230 for the CONCACAF side, and a draw at plus 230, Jordan.
My Black Stars. When you look at Jamaicans, you could probably trace some roots back to Ghana as well. I love watching this team play. I also think with Panama, yeah, of course, it's a team that has grown in recent years, but I'm looking at Ghana in Toronto. Every Ghanaian I know is pulling up to and in or around the stadium. So they're going to have that home support. I put it on them to get the 3 points tomorrow for sure.
I actually have Ghana being last place in this group. It's been turbulent coming in. They've been losing games and not winning. The problems with I think it's a mess. They can't defend. I trust Thomas Christensen. We've seen him so many times in CONCACAF help Panama elevate to new highs. I think that they're going to give Ghana a go. Panama's very familiar playing in Toronto Stadium as well.
It's true.
So I'd probably approach Panama in a positive way to round out this group. Colombia, by the way, last one, went to nil. I like this Colombia side.
1-0 says Gareth Wheeler. Jordan Wilson, plus 800 on the Uzbeks. Are you inspired by Edmonton?
When Wheel says it like that, he's probably right. So I'm going to just trust him with that one.
Thanks, pal.
Bet365 and the lines for Wednesday's group games. As always, those lines are subject to change, but plus 638 for Garrett's three-leg parlay. Listen, I'm a little bit inspired. I'm not going to lie to you guys one bit. And because of the fact I'm not in the chair tomorrow, so if my words have consequences, I don't have to address them then. But we know we'll be seeing plenty of Gareth Wheeler and Jordan Wilson coming up soon. This is, of course, Bet365 for the win. Match day -1 tomorrow for Canada. We're getting close to the brass tacks, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're excited, and we thank you for joining us.